Glad you could stop by for another session of Car and Track. Our race feature this week is one I'm certain you're going to enjoy. The Southeastern 500, held annually at Bristol International Speedway in the mountains of Tennessee. This is another of the many races we've been filming at tracks that have never been exposed to television. This will be a hot 30 minutes. We'll be ready to go in 60 seconds. Until now, most of the NASCAR late model stock races that we featured on the show were filmed at the big super speedways like Daytona and Atlanta, Charlotte, and the many others. But we found out there's a whole load of action in between these big events at some of the smaller tracks throughout the Southland. And such was the case at a little half-mile track nestled in the mountains at Bristol, Tennessee. This Southeastern 500 played host to race fans from 4 neighboring states. And as is typical with all of the NASCAR circuit, the big names were on hand. The same drivers that run the super speedways are always in the lineup at the smaller tracks. And let me tell you, when you turn 40 stockers loose on a half-mile track, you've got traffic you wouldn't believe. 40 of the fastest cars and the hottest drivers on the NASCAR circuit were here at Bristol for the running of the famous Southeastern 500. A jam-packed crowd of over 26,000 race fans were on hand to witness the battle. And this half-mile track at Bristol has long been known as the stage for one of the toughest grinds in stock car racing. The Grand National Champion, Richard Petty, is on the pole in his familiar electric blue Hemi-powered Plymouth number 43. Alongside in the Ford Torino number 17, Davy Pearson. Cale Yarborough in number 21 is starting in the 3rd slot with Leroy Yarborough alongside. Both are driving Mercury Cyclones. Another Plymouth pilot, Darrell Derringer, starting 5th. Number 27 is Donnie Allison in a Ford Torino, along with brother Bobby Allison. Now the pace car leads this fantastic field through the 4th turn. The Camaro Pacer drops off the track down pit row, and suddenly there's a Tennessee earthquake as all the power in the world charges down for the green flag. Petty fires off the pole and takes the lead in the 1st turn, but Pearson and Yarborough are right on him, and the traffic is wild through the pocket. But Davy Pearson wants that lead. As they enter the 3rd turn, he slides his Torino on the inside of Petty and takes the lead away. Cale Yarborough owns the 3rd spot as he hangs onto Petty's bumper. All cars round out of the 2nd turn now for a headlong scramble for position. Yarborough moves up behind Cale to take over the 4th position as all cars pick up the pace down that long back chute. Jerry Grant brings his Plymouth Roadrunner in for an early pit stop with handling problems. Watch it. Cale Yarborough makes his bid for 2nd place on the inside of Petty. Richard on the high side, and coming out of the 2nd turn, he punches that big Hemi and staves Cale off down the long back straightaway. Petty moves up alongside of Davy Pearson. They split around a slower car. Petty low, Pearson high, and Richard takes the lead in a 4-wheel drift coming onto the grandstand straight. As the leaders go through 2, Pearson cuts down to a lower groove trying to get underneath Petty. And he does it. Pearson takes his lead back again. The Plymouth Ford battle is on, and the crowd is screaming. The 02 car, Bob Cooper, spins his Chevelle out, but regains control and stays in the race. There's oil on the track, though, and the yellow flag is out to give the sweepers a chance to clean it up. Many of the cars take this opportunity to pit. Leroy Yarborough wheels his Mercury Cyclone into the pits for new rubber on the right side and fuel. Petty's pit crew wave him into the pit, but Richard stays out on the track. He's going to take a chance and wait for the next yellow flag. Leroy's crew get him in and out of the pits just in time. He's no more out on the track than the green flag falls. They're underway once again. Petty is pouring it on now, moving up on Pearson. Uh-oh, Bobby Allison blows that Ford Torino number 29 and heads for the garage area. He's all done for this race for today. Just as Cale Yarborough opens up that big Cyclone, the bid for the front spot, Stan Meeser, in car number 51, blows his engine and drops oil all over the raceway.
brings out the third yellow flag of the day. All cars hold their position and slow down. Cale Yarborough has been waiting for this chance to pit. He fires in, and the Wood Brothers crew go to work. 2 new tires, 20 gallons of fuel, and clean the windshields. Paul Goldsmith in that Hemi-powered Dodge Super Bee has the same idea. The Wood Brothers have the reputation, the fastest crew in the business, to get Cale out in 22 seconds. Donnie Allison wheels his Ford Torino back onto the racetrack. Jerry Grant spins his Plymouth out for the last time and parks it in the infield. Petty puts on a charge and takes Tiny Lund on the inside to move up once again into the second spot behind Davy Pearson, and the entire field is picking up the pace. Now these drivers really climb on it down the grandstand straightaway. Suddenly, G.C. Spencer in car number 49 loses it and spins wild in the first turn. Spencer takes the Ford number 95, driven by Peterman, out with him. This war of nerves is starting to tell on these drivers now. On a high-banked half-mile track like Bristol, a driver is under constant pressure. The whole front end on Spencer's Plymouth was totaled out. The yellow flag is out once again, and pit row becomes a beehive of activity. Neil Castle in the 06 Plymouth limps into the pits. Neil has been having handling problems all afternoon, and the crew checks out the suspension. Neil sits impatiently as the green flag falls once again. Now the Petty-Pearson battle rages white hot as Richard moves into the lead in heavy traffic. Donnie Allison, Buddy Baker, Bobby Isaacs. These are some of the hottest jockeys in the Southland. Each one is a veteran. Each one a potential winner. Nobody backs off. No quarter is given. When you pass one of these boys, you earn it. Hey, they're really moving. They're running through the turns 3 and 4 abreast. As all cars pour out of the 4th turn and onto the main chute, this is where Petty's ability to move through traffic really pays off. But Pearson climbs up right on his tail. Pearson seems to be pacing himself well as he hangs back in the 2nd position, following Richard through the holes. And he cuts them like a hot knife through butter. Another car blows. That's Tiny Lund at number 16. He was doing a good job in that Mercury, but he'll be able to watch the rest of this race from the pits. When Tiny blew, Petty slowed up and Cale Yarborough charged around the high side. Look out! Buddy Baker loses it in the 4th turn and spins it hard right up to the pit rail. And again, the yellow flag comes out. But Buddy Baker is all right, and so is the car. He wheels it around and goes right back in the race. All cars form a single line behind the pace car, while the track sweepers clean the raceway. Petty is still in the number 1 spot with Davy Pearson second. Cale Yarborough screams down pit row for fuel. This time around, the pace car drops down low, goes off the track, the green flag is out, and they're off once again. Here's number 71, the Dodge Charger driven by Bobby Isaacs, weaving down pit row. He's showing his pit crew that he's having steering problems. They go to work in a hurry. As they move closer and closer to the checkered flag, Petty has the edge on Pearson. But Leroy Yarborough could be the boy to watch. He's been pacing himself well and moving up through the pack. Watch it. Petty's brakes just went out on him. He drifts high to the wall in the 2nd turn, and Davy Pearson chops down underneath him and takes the lead away. Three laps later, Bobby Isaacs is back in the pits. He has his hands full trying to make that Charger handle. Pearson has that Ford high to the wall coming into the 3rd turn, and Petty tries for the lead on the inside. Richard is running that Plymouth deep into the corners with no brakes at all. That rebel is really a driver. A few laps later, Bobby Isaacs comes into the pits again. 2 laps before, he signaled his pit crew that he wanted a relief driver. Now G.C. Spencer climbs in. He'd been on the sidelines since his accident earlier in the race. Meanwhile, out on the track, Leroy Yarborough has caught up with Pearson and Petty. In just seconds, they have Spencer belted into the Isaacs Dodge and out on the track. Leroy has taken over second place from Petty, and now he has that big Mercury Cyclone wound up tight and tries to make the number 1 spot from Davy Pearson. Yarborough has the lead. He took Pearson going down the back chute. This puts Petty in third. With this race fast coming to an end, Pearson regains his lead from Yarborough, and Richard scorches that blue Hemi Plymouth underneath Leroy, taking the second place back, and moves up to tangle with Davy Pearson for the lead. Now they're running rebel style. Pearson, Petty, and Yarborough side by side. They're scraping fenders all the way around the track at over 100 miles an hour, and the crowd goes wild. Out of the fourth turn, Pearson edges out Yarborough and Petty for the lead and takes the white flag. One more lap. On the last lap, Pearson has that Torino wound up as tight as she'll go, holds on to the lead, and takes the checkered flag. The winner of the Southeastern 500. And it was a battle right down to the wire.